Hey, man.
Bro, ça tue, ça blesse, ça flingue. Hey, bro.
Welcome back to the BME podcast, the best sports podcast in New Jersey. Miles, Greg, we are on the last day of 2025. How y'all fellas feeling? How was y'all year?
It's good. It's been a good year. Outside of, the Jets related stuff. Like, as a Knicks fan, this could be my year in 2026. I'm ready.
As a Knicks fan, okay, yeah. Optimism is fair. I mean, for me, yeah. I mean, sports wise, it hasn't been a great year. It's been awful sports wise. Nothing good. Literally, nothing good has happened. But we alive. We're breathing. We're doing well, healthy. I can see, taste, all that stuff. So we good.
Got all your senses. Funny you mentioned
Yeah.
them Jets. The TikTok video with you predicting the Jets record started doing some numbers again today. Just out the blue. People was in the comments and somebody commented when you had your prediction was like, nah, he wrong. It's probably gonna be 4-13. He was pretty accurate.
Have they won that many? Have they won that many games? Is it 4?
No,
of them?
we've won 3 games, and I hope we keep it that way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but that that started going up again today. Just out the blue. I was like,
That's
hey,
my last one. I'm not doing any more Jets predictions for records. We've done it the last 3 years, and every year they've fallen short by like 4 or 5 games. So I'm like, I'm good. I'm good.
Hey, so one of the teams that, because we're gonna get straight into it, I ain't gonna do too much of the intro and all that good stuff. We're gonna get straight to the meat because y'all don't have good attention spans anyway. Talking about not coming and meeting up to expectations, everybody pretty much had this year. The Ravens taking that next step, possibly being a team that could go win a Super Bowl with Lamar. They haven't lived up to billing and expectations, and we're hearing the trade rumors about Lamar Jackson. Is Lamar Jackson being made the scapegoat for yet another underwhelming, underperforming Ravens season?
I would certainly say so. I think so. I mean, based on what the media narrative is, I don't like. I don't know. When I see a report talking about his habits, the way we talked about, the way that report came out about Kyler Murray's habits, playing Call of Duty too much, how he found that stuff out. That stuff comes from inside your building. That's not like media driven stuff. That's not really how that works. They get it from somewhere. They heard it somewhere, and they're reporting what they heard from someone who is close enough to the situation. It's the same thing with the Lamar stuff here. Right, you talk about him getting into the building late, staying up late and playing video games. Sounds familiar, right? Like all those things. Well, you weren't making those complaints when he was winning MVPs. You weren't making complaints when you were going on deep playoff runs, right? Or you weren't making complaints when it seemed like nobody in the world could tackle him, right? And he was not only the best quarterback in the sport, but the best running back in the sport at the same time, simultaneously. You enjoyed the fruits of his labor, and you had no problem doing so. So much so that you even corrupted the NFL and the pool of GMs and made sure that there was no one that'd be willing to go out there and try to get him when you didn't want to give him the contract he was asking for initially, right? And so I don't know, man. There was definitely collusion there when he was up for that potential. I can't even call it free agency because they had the tag the entire time they could have used, but right, they didn't want to use it, and it was just weird in between land. And there was a period where Lamar Jackson was a free agent technically, and you could have traded for him, and that didn't happen. So I don't know. Like it's just I think it's a dirty game, but I just think when you talk about black quarterbacks in specific, right, in this sport, like this is kind of par for the course. In my lifetime, I haven't seen a smear campaign like this for many white quarterbacks. Just to be honest, even white quarterbacks that don't play well, like you just don't see it. You don't hear about it. It's not a thing. It's not something that's discussed. But now in my lifetime and more recent, that's not even be dramatic. It's not in my lifetime, but in the last 5 to 6 years, it's been Kyler Murray, it's been Lamar Jackson that we've had a smear campaign, a public smear campaign happen about, right? It didn't happen about anybody else I know that was struggling. Dak gets a lot of gets a lot of crap down in Dallas as well. Now Dak is a different situation, right? He's a different character, right? It's not the same. It's not apples to apples. But the moral of the story is that, I just feel like if you have this conversation about Lamar Jackson and the narrative that's out there about him, and you don't bring up race, I think it's being disingenuous. I don't see how you can, talk about one thing without talking about the other. It's hard to do that. It really is, because there's no good explanation for it. That guy has been so great for that organization, for that city, right? Revitalized the city, gave him a franchise quarterback. You would think this guy's going to be there for the next 15 years unquestioned. And we're having a conversation right now about him, potentially not being there. It's not like Joe Burrow is sitting there saying, "Hey, you guys aren't helping me. I'm not enjoying this. I want to leave." That's a lot different than what Lamar's never said anything like that. Never. But I don't know, man. It feels like a cold war going on between that front office and specifically John Harbaugh and Lamar. I think there's real static there. I think there's real static between those two guys, between John Harbaugh and Lamar. And if we have two iotas of common sense at all, then the winner should be Lamar. Lamar should win that battle between him and John Harbaugh every time, but that may not happen here.
No, I mean, it's definitely tough to see Lamar kind of going through it. Well, we don't know what's going to happen. It's all speculation right now, and I mean, who knows? John Harbaugh could be out of here in a month or two, or Lamar could be the one that's out of here. But it's funny how, like a year ago, he was, in some eyes, the guy who should have been the MVP, and now he's a guy who has been dealing with injuries. That's kind of what I chalk it up to. He's been banged up all year. He's not even playing at 60% of the Lamar that we know and love to watch. So if he's healthy, they're running away with this division. I think if you look at early on, he was playing great, and then he hurt his hamstring and just hasn't been the same. You're not seeing that explosiveness, anything like that. But yeah, like you said, it's something that doesn't really happen with white quarterbacks, where you see the scrutiny of their day-to-day habits. Like, it's definitely a smear campaign being run by the Ravens or whoever, trying to force fans to be on their side of things when it comes to, hey, pick a side, Lamar or Ravens. Are you going to be a fan of the team, or are you going to be a fan of the player? So we'll see how it goes. But this time around, a lot of teams should be lining up their assets the same way we keep hearing the speculation for, teams are gearing up to make a run at Joe Burrow in the offseason. Sure, that guy is great. I'm not taking anything away from him. But Lamar is a guy who's one of the youngest MVPs of all time, 2-time MVP, should be 3-time MVP, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play in this sport. They should be talking about him the same way as they do Joe Burrow in this situation come the offseason. So it's going to be a wild run in the offseason.
Sticking with the quarterback conversation, there's been some conversation on the Bird app, X, Instagram, a couple other places, on ESPN and the talk shows and the podcasts and the radio shows about another quarterback, Jaxson Dart. Do y'all feel that Jaxson Dart should be the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year?
I think he should be at least a top 2 candidate, right? I mean, at the very least, if you want to give Ted McMillan that love and say he's the guy, okay, I can hear that. I have no problem. I think he has over 1,000, or at least 1,000 at this point, receiving yards, if I'm not mistaken. He's the best receiver on a playoff team. Okay, we can have that conversation. That's fine. I can respect it. I can rationalize why you'd have him over Jaxson Dart, who has missed some games and it has not been himself for a couple games. We can get into why that's the reason, but regardless of what the reason is for it, I can rationalize that. What I can't do is, the whole Tyler Shough hype train. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry. It makes zero sense. Jaxson Dart has just been bar none a better quarterback than him throughout the entirety of this year. It isn't even really a particularly close conversation. Tyler Shough has had a nice stretch here over the last, month or so, right? Playing against teams that aren't, quite frankly, that good. You beat up on Tennessee's defense. You beat up on the Jets. right? As well, the Jets who have quit on their coach, and you went out there and beat them. Awesome. Who else did they go out against? The Bucks and the Panthers as well. The Bucks and the Panthers, they've also both beaten. Bucks and Panthers are both good teams, respectable teams, but the Bucks are not the same Bucks that we saw early this season. I think anyone who's been watching can admit that that's the case. All right, they're not as explosive offensively. Ibuka suddenly got stoned for hands, and defensively, they're still a very tough defense. That's a good win, but I don't know, guys. I have a hard time with this whole notion that because he's on a 4-game winning streak and he's had some performances in clutch moments within those games, that is a reasonable that's like a reasonable reason to give him the offensive rookie of the year award. I don't see it. I'm sorry. The stats don't bear it out. Okay. Jaxson Dart has had to go up against arguably the hardest schedule of any of the rookie quarterbacks. I think it's not even inarguably. He is definitely gone against the hardest schedule. And in those games against playoff teams, he has 14 touchdowns and 1 interception. He's been really, really good against those teams. 22 total touchdowns on the year, right? I don't know, guys. It's not really a thing that we should even be talking about. If it comes down to Tyler Shough and Jaxson Dart, if you want to make it about Tech, different conversation. I'm here for that. But I will not entertain a conversation where you're telling me that Tyler Shough's going to win it over Jaxson Dart, and it's justified. It is not justified, even with Jaxson Dart struggles being factored in, especially since those struggles are in part because the coach decided to muzzle him, since they were like, oh, well, the media narratives out there, and people are talking about how he gets 1 million concussions, and this and that. Dude, he had 1 concussion. He's been to the tent because he's slow to get up in general, and none of them been actually concussion related. They weren't head related injuries. He's fine, and he's been doing a better job getting down. So people who talk about the style of play aren't watching him enough to actually have a valid opinion on it. And that's the issue I have with this, and it's hurting him. The media narrative is hurting him in a conversation where it shouldn't be when it comes to offensive rookie of the year. But hey, that's neither here nor there. I don't think it's much of a debate though.
Hey, Miles, I want to ask you this, because something that he did mention in there was about your Jets and seemingly the team giving up on Aaron Glenn. Do you think there's a possibility that Aaron Glenn is one and done?
I'd put it at like 80 to 85% chance that he's back next year. And yeah, maybe a few weeks ago I would have said 95, 99% chance that he would be back. But you can't discount how bad things have looked. And it's one thing to lose and to tank, but then it's another thing to just put a gross product on the field where they've had home games and everything's been made about how nobody's coming to the games. And there's a reason why. There's nothing to watch. There's no hope really in this season. It was lost. He started off, real combative with the media and saying oh, we're the freaking New York Jets, this, that, and the third. When you start off that way, you got to be better than 3-13 in your first year if you're gonna, start off that way. No, even though you know that the roster's not where it should be to win games. And I think the icing on the cake right now, it's one thing to lose division games, which, those games can go either way, depending on which division you play in. But they're not even competitive against the division opponents. You play those teams 6 times in a year, and you've got to at least be 3-3 if you're thinking of being a playoff team or a respectable team. And to lose every single game in division, that's why you have fans screaming oh, this is one of the worst years a team's had in history. And the stats kind of back it up. The point differential, the Jets this year are in the top 3 for worst all time. So, I wouldn't want him fired. I want him to get a fair shot. We've seen what happened in Houston with David Culley and Lovie Smith, where they were one and done. And you hate that narrative of they fire black coaches and they don't give them enough leash as they do, let's say, a white coach. Look at Adam Gase. He was given a job with the Jets after he was terrible with the Dolphins. Would that have been given to some of these other black coaches in the NFL? Hell no. So I don't want to see him fired as a Jets fan. I want to see him figure it out. I hear players talk about him, and there's a great deal of respect throughout the league for him as a coach, as a mentor for some of these guys. So they just got to hit on the quarterback. That's what it comes down to. So it's imperative that they lose this last game. And who knows, the Giants, they might win this week. So we might have the second pick without having to trade assets, which that would be the most ideal thing.
Now, you mentioned, you don't ever truly want anybody to get fired. You don't want anybody to be out of a job. One person that's going to have a job still, and I would like to see what your viewpoint on it is Joe Schoen. It's reported he'll be back next season. Do you think, since they got rid of Dayball and some of the problems that you alluded to with Jaxson Dart and the Giants not being able to pull out wins and some of the roster construction, do you think Joe Schoen should have been fired?
I think he should have been fired because of the draft classes and the draft misses that he's had. And it really, if you look at his whole, like, the way he's drafted during his time being with the Giants and running the show, it's been the earlier drafts that have been bad. It's like those first couple drafts where you went and got Evan Neal and you missed on him, and you got John Michael Schmidt, which, he's okay, but you got I believe it was a second round pick, which is insane for the kind of player he is, just not warranted. And then you trade up for Jalen Hyatt, and he can't even see the field. Like, he's just horrifically bad. And anytime a quarterback throws the ball to him, it's an interception. Deontay Banks, you traded up for, and he is horrifically awful too, and doesn't seem to know where to be. And but he has all the athletic gifts in the world, but just doesn't seem to know how to play the position of cornerback at all. And Eric Gray, the list is long. There's a lot of guys that he's missed on. I want to bore everybody, but that's just the reality. Is if I can name that many guys off the top of my head that he's missed on, we have a problem. But the last couple of drafts have been better. He did trade up for Jaxson Dart. He did a really good job in assessing the board, because Jaxson Dart could have gotten picked at any point ahead of the Giants. And, because of Joe Schoen kind of maneuvering around that draft board and making the trade up, we may have found our franchise quarterback. I certainly feel like we did find our franchise quarterback as well. He hired Dayball, who was, even if you want to say, like, Dayball wasn't a good coach, he got let go, whatever. Even if you want to say Dayball liked Dart and it wasn't Joe Schoen, he hired Dayball. Like, Dayball, they found their quarterback through a guy that you hired. Like, you do get some credit for that. So it is weird with Joe Schoen, because I do think that somewhere in there's a decent GM. There's a good GM that can make good decisions and can lead a franchise as well. The Saquon situation, everyone's going to talk about that. I always say, we should have traded Saquon instead of letting him just go and walk for nothing. But I also take into account that John Mara has been too involved with this organization for too long with football decisions, and I know he loves Saquon. So the chance that he told him, you're not trading Saquon. Like, I got to take that into account too, right? Just like the Daniel Jones re-signing. I know that they didn't like Daniel Jones that much. It was never their guy, but they gave him more money after that playoff run in 2020. And I think that was in large part, or 2022, whatever year. I think it was 2022, whatever year it was. But they gave him that money in large part because I think that I know that Mara loved them. Like, I do think that played a role. I think that played a factor. So I do think there's a part of me that's kind of rationalizing this whole thing. I'd rather them fire him than keep him, but I could see why you might keep Joe Schoen. He did trade for Brian Burns, who's been amazing. He's a cornerstone piece. He's always masterfully manipulated the trade market as well. He got Aluminor. He fixed the offensive line, something that hasn't been the case here for God knows how long, right? That we have an offensive line that's functional, can keep the quarterback upright when they're healthy. As well. And I think I love Scatterboo, as well as a hit, like a late round find as well. Theo Johnson's just okay. He's got the potential, but he's okay. He can't hold on to the football. We'll see what happens. But there's enough there to be like, all right, like if we're stuck with him for another year, that's fine. I think the question Giants fans got to ask themselves is, Do you think that Joe Schoen can have a Ryan Poles-like offseason? Because Ryan Poles is in the same situation with the Bears, where like people were like, yo, get this joker out of here. He makes bad decisions. We want him gone. He has one offseason where he completely revamps their offensive line, right? They go make a couple signings, Swift, whatever, and now they're the best. And they get Ben Johnson. They made the right head coaching hire, and now they're literally fighting for the top of the NFC the standings, right? They're right there at right with San Fran. So there is an opportunity here where maybe you have to ask yourself if that could happen. I think the Giants have more talent than people may realize. I think people kind of understand there's a talented roster. The right head coaching hire could save him. It could save him, right? So we'll see. But honestly, if any Giants fans sitting there hoping that Joe Schoen gets fired, I think if they wake up and smell the roses or whatever you want to smell, because he's not going to be fired. He's not going to be fired. He's going to keep his job, and there's too many tea leaves. Josina just dropped a report a minute ago saying that they already got their coach, their first line of interviews set up. They're about to start, and she said that Joe Schoen can quote unquote pull off a Nick Caserio here, who was the GM of the Texans, who it was in a very similar situation, right? Like he had that draft with Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud, and we never looked back. But before that, they were talking about firing him. So I think it could be a very similar situation. I think he was also the guy who traded Deshaun. What a move, by the way. So he deserves his job.
Hey, that's why it would be best if you guys lose on Sunday, because then it gives you a chance to trade down, get assets, get picks, and build the roster out. Because first round pick, I would take receiver. I think they let Wandell walk, and there's some good receivers in the draft this year, with like Tyson and Carnell Tate. So, I'm not a GM, but if Joe Schoen's son knows what he's doing, I think I know what I'm doing too.
Hey, I'm glad you said that too, because we're not going to rehash that, because that's been a conversation too. And Greg has seen it, I know, of people on these talk shows saying that they don't have it locked down at quarterback. I don't think the Giants should not draft a quarterback this year. Rock out with Jaxson Dart. And if you end up finding out that he's not the guy, then you could pivot after next year. But give him a full season, fix the roster, and let's see what happens.
I feel like the only way that he's not the guy is if it's because of injuries. Like, I think they've got the guy, and he's shown in his rookie year that, hey, I can play with these guys in the NFL, even without Malik Neighbors for most of that time. He's shown, hey, I can go to Denver and almost pull off a win against a 1 seed, or almost beat Chicago, who's been one of the best teams, might be a 1 seed in the NFC. So, I mean, he's shown enough that his leash should be really long over there in New York. It's just like, be smarter. Be a little smarter with how you play. That's why I'm like, I don't want to like take away his game and be like, hey, stay in the pocket. You can scramble, but like that doesn't mean you're trying to be Scatterboo at quarterback and trying to run through people. Like, get down and live to play another down. Like, that's all it is.
Hey, you talk about having a guy. Spurs got their guy, and Victor Wembanyama, obviously. They got their guy potentially for the next 10 years, 15 years in Harper and in Castle. They beat OKC 3 times this year, and the last 2 it was handily. It wasn't really any question that they was the better team that night. But after being on that high, they lose games like they lose to the Jazz, and then they lose games like to the Cavs, who have been up and down. The Jazz is a young, fun team. You lost to them pretty handily, 127 to 114. Looking at the Spurs, are they actually ready to contend now? Or are they kind of in a situation where it's like they're just ahead of schedule?
I think they're ready. I think it also just comes down to some of those lower teams. They kind of just play down to the comp, and they should blow out Utah. That shouldn't be like a team that they struggle with. But like, sometimes you play down to the comp, and Utah is a fun team to watch. You know, they got some young guards over there that are really good. So easy to kind of like overlook that team. But I mean, when it's time to show up, they show up against some of the better teams, like OKC. I mean, they beat them 3 times in a span of like 2 weeks, which because of the tournament, the in-season tournament, the scheduling worked out that way. But I mean, this is the team that everybody's had as a front runner for going back to the finals and repeating possibly. So, yeah, it's gonna be fun. I want to see them in a more like playoff setting, even though the tournament's sort of that way. But once they get to the playoffs, young coach, young roster, like how are they gonna do against Denver or OKC at some point? Like these guys have been here. Playoff basketball is totally different than what we see during the regular season, where the effort is not always there. Guys take nights off. They're not going to say it, but they're not going to give full out effort some nights, and that could be the case. But yeah, I mean, San Antonio's a threat. They're definitely a threat to those top teams in the Western Conference.
Hey, and it could get really scary for OKC and the Spurs because with Jokic's injury, they might slip down the standings, and now you got to see them jokers in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
That's going like that. I think nobody really is talking about because if they start losing a couple of games, and then Jokic comes back healthy, and they have 4 or 5 seed, and you got to see them jokers in the first round, man, God bless you on that one.
I don't think they're going to win. I don't see them getting to the finals this year. The Spurs. I feel like I'm the Spurs hater on this podcast, even just because I'm always the guy throwing cold water on everything. But I just think that they're young and they're too young in important positions for them to be ready to like that leap into like automatic contention. They're ahead of schedule. They're. I don't think that if you ask them before the season started if they expect to be here, they probably tell you no. You know what I mean? Like, and I know they didn't expect to get Dylan Harper and strike gold in the lottery, but Dylan Harper has things he has to get better at. He has to become a better shooter, a more consistent shooter. It's a real thing he has to work on, and that's in spite of how great he's been this year and everything else. But yeah, I do think that they're very talented defensively, but the playoffs are a different animal. I think an older, more seasoned veteran team can take advantage of them as long as they're athletic enough to get up and down with them. Denver kind of obviously the obvious candidate as well. I do think a series with Houston would be interesting. I think it'd be really because Houston's been there. They're battle tested. It'd be really interesting to kind of see that series play out with them too. And then those are teams that outside of the obvious. OKC, there's a real kind of like, I think the Spurs are really their kryptonite because of Wembanyama being there to kind of stop Shea's foul baiting. They keep Shea off the line. And that's a big part of their offense. Now, Jalen Williams is not fully back to being himself yet. He's getting back from the injury now. So we'll see what that looks like when he's fully healthy. But, I do think there's something to be said for the fact that they can protect the rim without fouling. They can funnel all the traffic into Wembanyama, and they don't have to worry about picking up cheap fouls. And that helps them. And especially against OKC, with a team where they get to the free throw line and they are very physical defensively and seem to get away with a lot defensively as well. That's OKC's kind of MO, right, as well. So they force a lot of turnovers that way. But hey, I still think that the Spurs have to go through that kind of like trial by fire. They got to get baptized, so to speak, and this is what this season's about for them, so they can be ready to compete in the future.
Hey, the good thing too that within that, like you said, is the West is still deep. It's a lot of teams in there, and Houston, they're not nothing to sleep on. They're off a 20-10 start to the season. Fred VanVleet has been rumored to be coming back. You have Fred going against some of those rookie guards. De'Aaron Fox obviously there, but Fred, that's a huge piece for them. And that'll put Reed Sheppard on the bench. Amen will be right in his actual, slotted position that he should be. I think it's safe to say at this point in this season, the experiment of him being at point guard isn't the best. Maybe he'll be able to do it a couple years from now, but this year, no, that's not the case. Looking forward, though, with the Houston Rockets, who was actually more valuable and more important to their future, Reed Sheppard or Amen Thompson?
I'm not biased, but I would say Reed. I'm just gonna come out and say, like, this is a kid who came to Kentucky kind of underrated and showed out. He wasn't supposed to be a one and done. He was supposed to be there 2-3 years. So threw a wrench in our our thing at Kentucky, but I mean that kid is really good. Like the shooting he's probably one of the 5 best shooters in the NBA right now. That might be a hot take, whatever, but like this kid, he's not even being given the reins yet, and he's been more impactful for them as it comes to winning than Amen. Amen he's good too. It's just if you don't have a jump shot, it kind of limits what you can do a little bit on the court. Like, yeah, you could be a guy who gets 7, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 15 points, but at some point we got to see you kind of like elevate your game a little bit. And Reed's already there. Like he's got the shooting. I'm not going to put the Curry comps on him. I don't think that's fair for him, but this kid is going to be special. And I was always hopeful that he would, take the reins and start this year, even though I don't think they're giving that to him just yet. Maybe next year. But I think he's better for this team than Fred, just because Fred is very inefficient when it comes to shooting the basketball, scoring. He's just a good vet. That's kind of what he is right now. Reed is a guy who can put pressure on a defense, coming off screens, Curry light, might I say. Like, if you give him a chance, he's going to light you up for 30 on any given night. And that's with him coming off the bench, too.
I think our fellow co-host has some thoughts on this one.
I mean, look, I think it's tough. Like Reed has been sensational for them, and it's been by mistake because I don't think that he would be playing if Fred was there. I don't think he'd be getting this time because I think that Ime is a guy who's very old school in the sense that if he doesn't feel like you can defend, he's not going to play you. But he's been great, and we all knew he could be a great offensive player in the league, a really, really good one, which he's been. He's one of the best shooters in the NBA already, to be my opinion, on the move, on the catch. He does it all really well, and he's a big part of their future for sure, absolutely. But I think if you had to ask the organization, they're going to tell you is amen that he's the guy that they're going to bank their future on, and they're always going to tell you every offseason if he can just get a jump shot, if he can just get a jump shot, right? Look, I saw a video of him shooting this summer, and the ball came out of his hand looking like a flying disc, and I knew then that he was not much of a shooter and that nothing had changed, and I knew that it would be more of the same. But again, if the Sixers were that patient with Ben Simmons, right, with his jump shooting woes, I think the Rockets will be very patient with Amen Thompson and treat him with kid gloves and really bring him along and extend him and really put a lot of resources into making sure they would keep him. If you had to ask them right now who's untouchable in a trade, they're going to tell you is Amen Thompson, right? They're going to tell you is Amen Thompson over Reed Sheppard because of the potential, right? His potential, his ceiling is higher, right? But I don't get wrapped up in potential. It's all about the work, and I think that in this summer, right, I think it's a red flag that in this summer, going from last year, having the success he had last year, having his first kind of taste of that to now this year, and you still don't have much of a jumper, I have concerns. So I don't think Miles is crazy for saying what he said. And there's a part of me that wants to agree with him, but I want to give Amen another summer before I say for sure that, hey, I'm out. But I do think it's a little odd that, the work hasn't translated yet.
Hey, this is something I think that we'll have to keep in the back of our minds of a conversation to have with Amen and Nassar. We'll have to revisit this conversation to see if everything we heard coming in, they don't leave the gym. They're in the gym 18 hours a day and can't shoot. So 18 hours a day and ain't producing a jump shot. Like you said, let's give them another summer. Let's give Asar and Amen, the twins, another summer and see if the potential that everybody talks about, if we start to even see flashes. We don't even see flashes. We see that they're super athletic. They play defense. They play hard, and they're willing to do the dirty work. Cool. But the conversation of them being possible stars, I think we could, if we don't see it next summer, I think we could dead it. You'll be good role players, which is fine. That's a 10-year career.
I feel like you can see early on though, like even if they're still working on it, whether they're ever going to have a jump shot or not. And with Amen, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see him developing a consistent jump shot to the point of like, oh, I got to worry about him out there. Like, he's always going to be a guy who's going to get downhill. And that's his biggest skill right now is I'm more athletic and faster than you, and it's a great skill to have. Like, he's almost averaging like 20 points a game just with that skill set alone. But like Reed already has the jump shot. Like, that's why I'm more on the Reed side, because you got the jumper. That's cool. Like, we can work with that. We can build your skill set around that. Like, he's gonna be okay. I'm not gonna say that. He's gonna be a good player in this league. Almost slipped up. I think he can be a star at some point if you give him a chance. Like, Ime is a hard coach to play for, but I think it's going to help because Reed is receptive to that coaching. Like, look at year one to now. That's not just off work. That's off of coaching too. So I'm giving credit to Reed for working on his game. Ime, like, I know Ime sees something with this kid. And yeah, fans of the Rockets and people out there might be higher on Amen just off of the athletic gifts. And so he can jump out the gym. He can do this. But, like, at some point, you're gonna have to like break somebody down or come off a screen and hit a jump shot. You're not always gonna get in the paint. Like, you're not Giannis. You're 6'7".
We ain't bringing that up. Just throw out his stats: 17 points so far this year, right? If you watch a Houston Rockets game, you'll understand these numbers that I'm about to mention. He's 51% from the field. Most of that is at the rim. That's not 51% with some mid ranges, and he don't even have, from what I've seen, really a variety with how he scores in the paint. It's not like he got floaters, left hand, right hand, up and unders. He's not doing that. But from three, shooting 18% right now. Greg has players on his team that shoot higher percentage than 18% from the three at Columbia High School. Shout out to them for the 6-2 start. There's players at Columbia right now that's shooting a higher clip than 18% from three. He got to get better on that aspect. We talk about potential, and sometimes we tend to, which, Miles stopped himself from doing that. We tend to give titles and we tend to put the crowns on people and players and coaches a little too early. Did we do that concerning JJ Redick? Did we speak too quickly and give him the title of being a good coach too early?
I mean, it's tough because first of all, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no to answer your question flat out. No, I don't think that anyone gave him too much credit too early. I think he can coach. I think he's established the fact that he can coach. He understands what he's doing, X's and O's wise, all that stuff. Now, we are getting to a part of this thing where the media and, people on social media are going to drive this narrative that, he's too hard on his team without having the accomplishments to back up being that hard on his team, right? Like, your resume doesn't justify the way you handle yourself in the media is what everyone's kind of saying. And I hear that. I'm not saying it's a crazy notion. I hear that. But I think if you're JJ Redick, you're pretty frustrated. I mean, you've come into this position. You've got the job. Great. No one thought you deserved the job. Everyone thought that it was a farce, and everyone thought that LeBron James handed you this job. I don't know why people still say that. I think they're idiots because tell me the last decision the Lakers made that LeBron orchestrated. The Lakers have gone out of their way to show the public that they don't give a damn what LeBron wants. And LeBron's actions and the way he's handling himself, like off the floor, and just kind of the way you see him acting and moving around the franchise now tells you that he's not a happy camper, because that is the case, because that's been what it's been there. Anyways, they hired JJ Redick, and I think he's done a great job from an X's and O's standpoint, but the roster is incredibly flawed. Anybody with two eyes can see it. It's awful in terms of just their lack of athletic ability. They're giving up, they're the worst transition defense in basketball, and it's just simply because, like Luka will take a bad three and no one runs back. Everyone just kind of stands there and watch. They're old. And look, I was thinking about this the other day, and Tony and I had a conversation about this. They went out there this summer. They added DeAndre Ayton, which excited nobody. Okay, DeAndre Ayton is a cast-off. He's a castaway. The fool didn't go to a game because he was snowed into his driveway up in Portland. I'll never forget that. I'll never take that man seriously, even though he has played some good basketball this year. I'll give you that. And it's tailed off as of late. It has not been as good. But then they added him and they added Marcus Smart to the roster and Jake LaRavia. They literally did nothing else. That's all they did was just add those 3 guys and a draft pick that I don't even know how to pronounce his name. All I know is that his car was stolen by Puka Nakua's brother, allegedly. That's all I know about him. So this idea that this team was supposed to be so much better and it's supposed to be a roster that JJ would be glad to coach it's ridiculous. It's a roster full of guys where they're too old to get up and down. And if we're going to be honest about the situation, right? If you want to talk about LeBron James, I think you're an idiot. If you want to talk about his performance, I think you're an idiot. I get the fact that he's paid and probably overpaid right now based on his performance. It's safe to say that, sure. But that contract's coming to an end. That's expiring. Okay, you guys didn't want to resign him. Okay, cool. Some would say that's a smart decision. I'm here for that. I can have that conversation from an unbiased standpoint. But Luka Dončić has been horrific again defensively with the weight, without the weight. It don't matter if he's on Weight Watchers or Ozempic. It doesn't make a difference. He does not slide his feet on defense. He doesn't seem to care. The care factor is not there defensively. And offensively, he turns the ball over to way too much for a guy who has the ball for 90% of your possessions. And that's killing them. It's killing them. Maybe more so than anything else. The fact that they're old and they can't get up and down at the same speeds of the teams. They don't have the foot speed. Okay. Legitimate concern. Cool. Rebounding, legitimate concern. Fine. But the biggest concern is the play of your superstar player, the guy you want to build this franchise around for the next 10 years. That guy does not care on defense. He's flat-footed. There's plays where he quits. There's already a long defensive highlight, a low light reel, I should say, of him not giving the effort defensively. And then turnovers are insane. I mean, these are turnovers where he sees that this guy's not going to be. It's not going to be open. This pass will not be open. He just deliberately throws it into traffic. There's no care factor offensively in stopping these turnovers, right? So this Luka thing is a real problem. It's a real, and by the way, he's good enough, in spite of everything I'm saying, to still average 30 points a game and lead the league in scoring. There's a lot more to basketball than scoring points. And people always talk about scoring as if it's the be all end all. And I always say it's kind of the things it's kind of as a guy who's a basketball lifer, so to speak, is one of those things that I don't put much stock into. Yeah, you got to be able to score it, but it's not the most important thing you can be. You got to be a smart player who has an intense passion for winning and making winning plays. That's the biggest thing, before everything else. And I can't say that about Luka right now. I can't say that. And I know Nico, people buried him. It was a bad trade no matter what happens. It was a bad trade whether Luka plays horribly or he figures it out. It's a bad trade. But was Nico wrong in concept about what he said about Luka Dončić? No, he was not. Luka is a flawed basketball player that you have to hide. You got to put makeup on his basketball team. You got to get athletic guys around him to hide his deficiencies. And the Lakers have not done that. And that goes back to Rob Pelinka. Everyone's going to get angry at everybody else on the floor. You want to make about JJ Redick and his disposition on the floor and how he handles himself? Well, you're misdirecting your anger. You should be talking about Rob Pelinka. This is about Rob Pelinka. He has done a horrific job. And again, I will say this over and over again. Everything good that's ever happened to Rob Pelinka has been because it's just it's the work of God. It's an act of God. Like AD falling into your laps. That's an act of God. Right? It just happened to work out for you because you got Bron coming. Act of God. You even getting the job. Magic Johnson said, I'm sick of this. Act of God. They just brought you in, right? Because they run this like a mom and pop shop. Mark Walter's there. I'm sure he's going to get him up out of there at some point because that's his MO. He's going to bring in guys he knows can run a successful organization and guys who are forward thinking. That is not Pelinka. He is not forward thinking. This summer was lackluster. Lakers fans just have a Lakers exceptionalism about them, where they think that no matter what happens, we're going to be able to compete for championships. And it's not fair. It's not a fair expectation. And so I can see why JJ would be upset and be pissy because you're not holding them to a fair standard. Even though he talked about championship, I get that. What else is he supposed to say? You know what I mean? But this has been a tough one. So I know I've ranted long enough, but that's my take. Direct your anger at Pelinka.
Hey, I think that's a perfect transition, though, because it's been a conversation that we've been having in the chat that we decided to bring to the show. Is it easier to build around Luka Dončić or Cooper Flagg?
I mean, look, Coop is real young, and I want to see how it looks in the future when they do build around him. But I think it's easier to build around Coop than it is Luka. Like, Luka hasn't shown he can play off the ball. So if you're gonna have a guy who needs the ball like 95% of the time, and when he doesn't have the ball, he's not moving, he's not cutting, he's not doing like basic things that you learn in 9 and 10-year-old basketball. Like, how can you truly build a competitive winning team with someone taking up that much of the vacuum of the team? Like, Coop, he does everything. He plays defense. Luka doesn't. He's willing to cut and do things without the basketball that Luka just chooses not to do. It's not like he can't. He can do all that stuff. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. He's kind of hardwired himself to play just this one way. Like, I'm the ecosystem. I'm the guy who's going to make the whole thing work. And if I don't have the ball, all right, I'm just going to chill here until I get the ball back. That's not how basketball works. That's not how you build a sustainable winner, build a good culture. Because, I mean, other Lakers see that he doesn't help on defense. Other Lakers see that in their film sessions, he's just standing there if he doesn't have the ball. How do you work when at times it's 4 against 5 out there? Like, Coop is an easier guy to sell as a head of your franchise. Just because I think this kid can be one of the best players in the league within the next 5 years. That's how highly I think of this kid. Like, sure, we had our doubts coming out, but he's athletic. He knows how to play the game the right way, and he's coachable. Like, he's not a guy who's gonna take the criticism and pout or mouth off to his friends outside of the court. He's gonna just take it in stride and keep working. That's why I like Coop. Coop is not. He's not one of those superstars, which he will be a superstar within the next couple of years. He's not one of those superstars that I see being that big problem that you get. The guy that you have to worry about. Is he going to ask out? Is he going to, be detrimental to the team? Like, no, he's built the right way. Like,
That's one of the few ethical hoopers in the NBA. Plays the right way, does what's right for the franchise. He's not gonna cause no problems, and he puts in the work. He doesn't have the best jumper too, but there's no question. Versus like an Amen Thompson, there's no question that he's gonna figure it out. Versus some other players. So, shout out to Coop. Dallas got one with that. I think they do need to trade Anthony Davis just to get the stink of anything involving the Nico Collins trade. Start fresh, build around Coop. And there's no disrespect, I don't have any problem with him personally, and I don't think he's going to fall off the face of the earth. But even get rid of Kyrie. Kyrie comes back. If you could get him back before the trade deadline and move him, cool. If not, next season, move Kyrie. Tear this thing down to the studs, build it correctly, build around Coop, and go from there.
It is easier to build around Cooper, by the way, just indebatably. Miles, for all the reasons Miles said, I don't got to repeat it, but it's definitely easier to build around Cooper, a guy who's going to make winning plays and is tall, athletic, and does all these things, as opposed to Luka, who has a clear weakness in his game and needs to pound the air off the ball for entire possessions. It's not fun to watch when he's not playing well. It's tough. It's really tough to watch. Last time I watched them play Detroit, a lot more of their problems stem from that guy that people want to talk about. It just does. So, you know what I mean? Like, when your best player doesn't do anything that your team needs, and he's physically incapable, you're dead. You're dead in the water, right? Like, think about the greatest NBA teams of all time. Think of Steph Curry learned how to play defense. We used to kill Steph Curry about it. Steph got in the passing lanes. He became a good off-ball defender. He would take charges. What's Luka's excuse? Like, seriously, at some point, it has to become a real conversation. And I know it is, but Maybe not to the extent that it should be.
I don't think it's to the extent that it should be because it doesn't seem like he's taking it serious. It doesn't seem like he has, like you said before, he has the care to be like, let me do this. Like we saw when Steph came back, you could tell that, all right, I've heard all the noise. I'm going to come back. I'm going to at least take charges. I'm going to at least try to get some steals.
Put on weight. Like he dedicated himself to the weight room and was like, all right, like you saw him on his arms are the size of boulders. I was like, oh, this guy's serious. Like he wants to win. Like you can see that. Luka lost some weight. Okay, you stopped eating chopped cheeses, nigga. You see. We can't call that care factor. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, that's all I'm gonna say. Sorry.
Hey, ended off this year, 2025, right? Going into 2026, it could be NBA, it could be sports as a whole, it could be the NFL. What is one thing that you would change regarding sports, whatever sport or sports as a whole, going into 2026? If you could change anything about sports going into 2026, what would it be?
Any sport going into 2026, any sport, like any singular. I think the NIL thing in college is getting out of control. They got to regulate it. You know, you're willing to regulate everything else in life, and you're telling me that now you're gonna turn college basketball into a sport basically into another G League, right, and into another professional league, right? You're gonna pull guys who are NBA guys, right, and bring them back into college, like Kenny Lofton. I think I saw he's gonna find his way back onto a college roster somehow. This is ridiculous, and I just think I think people who are in charge of this whole thing have been purposefully let it get here because you didn't have to. The second we talked about NIL starting, the second it became a conversation, it never had to get to this place, but it's almost purposefully been brought back here because what, you want to make a point? Like you're mad that these kids are getting paid, so now we're going to turn this thing into a mockery. It's almost what it feels like because this doesn't make any actual, and where we're headed is high school kids, like 99.9% of high school kids who are good enough to play in college at a D1 level will no longer be recruited by D1 schools. Why? You don't have to. Like there's no need for them. That's where we're headed. And now it's going to segment off into they're going to do a different division. That's what's going to happen. They're going to completely blow this thing up as we know it. The college basketball landscape is going to change dramatically if they don't make changes. Steve Pikiell of Rutgers said I have no problem going getting a guy who's 36 years old with 4 kids to come play for me because he's hungry. This is where this is headed. College coaches have always bent the rules. And you know what? I'll say this while I'm talking about it. I am so annoyed at this idea that Pitino gets up on his high horse, Calipari gets up on his high horse, and they talk about how it's such a big problem that the NIL is changing the sport that we love. Y'all were cheating when this thing when there was no NIL involved. Y'all were cheating. You had no problem betting the rules. Calipari, you got caught cheating. Pitino, you got caught cheating. Like this is not alleged stuff. I'm saying a fact. And so to sit there and say now that the sport you love is tainted and that Calipari blatantly goes, oh, well, my son wants to be a coach. And so I want to make sure it's good for him. Openly talk about the nepotism and nonsense that we have in this game, right? And that's a problem. It is ridiculous. It's asinine. I think that, obviously they have a point, but it's the wrong messenger. It's the wrong messengers, right? And so they need to get this thing under control. They need to form a committee. They need to get this thing back under the reins, because if not, again, like the G League's going to be depleted of all their talent, which no one, I guess, people won't care about because they don't watch it. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any money, but it's just getting to a place where it's going to hurt kids. It's going to hurt the kids. That's the bottom line, and that's not fair to them. You're punishing them for them making a little coin, which you guys didn't want in the first place.
Hey, I'm glad you said it because I've been seeing the little interviews that he's been going on, and I've been getting annoyed seeing Calipari.
So annoying.
Calipari since leaving and before he left, he's been on his high horse, his soapbox, complaining like, "Negro, shut up! You not winning because of you. You got caught. Now everybody's able to pay players, and now you're not producing." And on your way out, the boosters weren't giving enough money. Cal, this on you. Look in the mirror. You are the last person that should be talking about you have issues with NIL and the game you love. I can't stand when I see it's every week now. Is every week after a game, whether they win or lose, he's complaining on some level about it. It's actually it's disgusting. And NIL across the board. This is, like you said, I feel they really did this on purpose because the issue was the schools mainly were making these billions off of these kids' backs. And the schools are who should have been paying. It should have been some type of system, kind of like what they have in the NBA and the WNBA.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have a shared revenue. I need to get some money out of this. You're selling my jersey 2 doors down from my dorm, making billions of dollars. Cool. Y'all want money so bad? Well, let Jeep and Chevrolet and this restaurant give you money.
And the boosters, they're letting the boosters, the alumni pay the students, which is crazy. That makes no sense. It's the Wild Wild West. Now you're letting all these people cheap it. Dave Portnoy should not be able to pay a kid to come to Michigan. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. That's not the way this thing should work. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. The school should pay out of pocket. You know how much money people are going into debt to pay their student loans. They can't even afford to go to these schools. And these schools are raking in all this money and all this stuff, building new stadiums, building new, the donor relations building is yay high. And it's all brand new, state of the art. And people who work in colleges are getting paid off the backs of students. Forget athletes, students. It's like a societal issue. And so your answer to those kids getting a little money was, all right, well, let the boosters pay them. That's all. Let the boosters pay them. That makes no sense. It creates all kinds of conflicts of interest. And here we are with the big issue on our hands now because you're letting boosters get involved, letting random civilians get involved that have money in their pockets. Cool. Well, now we're gonna start bending all the rules. We're gonna start getting guys who are in the NBA. We're gonna start James Najee's who the Knicks I think may have draft rights to, is gonna go back to Baylor after preparing for the NBA. It is out of control, and it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get way worse. To all these kids that have hoop dreams, it's about to get weird. It's about to get real weird. It's going to get even harder to be in the NBA than it was before.
It's already gotten there. Like you have guys who sign contracts, and just like any contract, you've got to abide by it. Or then what? You're going to transfer and give up that contract. Everything's like a negotiation now, which, hey, shout out to the players. Now they're getting paid. They can, earn what they're worth instead of the university just being the ones getting it. But like it's tough to watch because now it's like, I don't want to say it's like one and done in all these sports, but like you really don't have to stay at a school. You can go wherever you want to go, and there's no legacy. There's no legacy with these programs now, with some of these players who don't want to stay 3-4 years. Like you're not going to have any. You don't have any Hansboroughs anyways, but like you're not getting guys that you're not raising their banners into the rafters. Like a guy's going to stay at Rutgers for 1 year. Then he'll, what? I had a great year. I'm going to go to LSU. It's like, okay, I had a down year. I'm going to go to Louisiana Tech. It's like there's too much bouncing back and forth. Like back then, guys, if you didn't play, you struggled a little bit, you worked through it. You kind of did it that way. Now, guys kind of take the easy way out because of the money. And that's why it's funny, Pavia fighting for an extra year. Like, dog, just let it go. Like, you did what you did at Vanderbilt. They're bringing in a 5-star, so I don't even know if they want you back. But, like, it comes a point where you got to let it go. You can't have these guys who are, like, grown men with families playing in these sports that are meant for late teen to like early adulthood kids. Like you're not meant to have a 30-year-old playing against 19, 20-year-olds. That's where the plot has just gotten lost with this whole NIL thing.
Yo, they're gonna start trading kids mid-season. They're gonna start releasing kids. They're gonna start picking up different people. We already have that conversation about them picking people up off the street and bringing them in as acquisitions and paying them to play because now it's no longer amateur sports. And that's the crazy part about it. These are still kids. 18, 19, 20. But now we're going to start seeing 30-year-olds. People are already bending the rules. I mean, Perry Ellis is a throwback. Kid guy went to Kansas. Guy was old as hell. He was 38. I think he was selling cars while playing for Kansas at the same time. And he had done it and it stretched the rules. It had already been happening. It's going to get way worse. And so I don't know, man. It just feels like Tone said earlier, it feels very retaliatory on the parts of everybody involved, all the adults involved, because they never wanted it to get here. They never wanted these guys to make the money, right? The people were pissed off about it, all right? And this is bigger than just like the sports landscape. There are politicians who are upset about it. This is a thing. Like, people are trying to get in the way of these kids getting paid, because at the end of the day, it's society. It's a societal issue is greed. And so, where money is, greed is. And so I don't know, man. We said one thing we can change in sports: get this thing under control. That's what I would say. Because kids are going to get paid, but there's a good way to go about doing it, and this is not it.
It's 100% a better way to go about it. And the thing that still is ignored in this whole conversation, Pavia, whoever you can name, whoever you want to name, that school is still making billions off of them. It's still the schools, of course, have no problem. Okay, cool. We get boosters and we'll have McDonald's give you a deal and all of this stuff, and we still make bank. We're still making more than the highest NIL athlete in all of college. I guarantee you that school is making 6 times what they got in NIL that year. Still.
Yep.
Still. So the schools aren't hurt from it. They did it out of spite. Fine, I want to get paid. And my fear is that they're going to try to then go completely back to it. Like, all right, since we can't get under control, we're going to get rid of it, period. That's my fear, where they're going to probably attempt or try to do that. Will it succeed? I don't know. But like you said, this is bigger than NBA, NFL, college. This is a global type of issue. It's greed and it's money in people's pockets that is now being affected. I could do it under the table back in the day, and I ain't have to pay this kid $10 million to come in. I could have gave him $100,000 and a nice car that I owned a dealership to, and I was good. Now I got to really push out money. Yeah, no. And then they don't perform. That's the other thing I don't like either, is regular people able to pay these kids. And if these kids don't perform up to that deal that they got paid, who's saying that they're handling this the most ethical way? That these regular civilians and boosters are going about it the right way. That, hey, I paid you $10 million. We got 6 wins on the season. We're not making a bowl game. It's a little nasty. We'll see what happens. But definitely agree with that one. We'll end off the show with the BMEs. This is something that's new that we're going to add to every year end of episode, kind of a poor man's version of Uncle Murder's Wrap It Up. We ain't gonna go to that extent, but we're gonna try to wrap it up sports wise. Who is y'all male athlete of the year?
I'm gonna say Shohei, just off the fact that I think he's the first player to ever win multiple MVPs in both the AL and the NL, plus another World Series win. Like, yeah, he's going to go down as one of the greatest to ever play the game. And it's hard to argue with that, even though, like, he'll have a shorter career and people will argue, like, oh, the numbers aren't there. But, like, a guy who can do it hitting and pitching, yeah, you could argue that every year he's healthy and able to pitch, he should win MVP, right? So, I mean, it's just, kudos to his greatness and that we're alive to witness this guy. Because, I mean, we're not alive to watch Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth, that was in black and white, and who knows if it was real. It could be AI. So, yeah, shout out to Shohei.
Who would you have as your male athlete of the year, Greg?
Shohei was such a great pick. Honestly, it's hard to like go against it. I'm kind of thinking too, and you know what? Like it'd be tough to sit here and tell you, oh yeah, right? Like, Shea. Like I don't know. Like I'm not really here for that. I think Shohei has been the most dominant player in his sport for so long, and the Dodgers' run of dominance has been so prominent, and it's become like a real talking point, and it's become bigger than baseball, right? Like people just expect the Dodgers to win, right? Synonymous with the word winning is the Dodgers. So yeah, I'll go with Shohei too. I try to kind of zig when Miles zags, but you got sometimes he go the right way, and I think Shohei was the easy choice.
Hey, female athlete of the year.
Asia Wilson.
Right. That's what
I was about to say, yeah.
It feels like a slam dunk to me. Dominant, and she won again. And I don't know, man. She's the clear best player in her sport, and she's sitting there. She's in the Mount Rushmore already for as far as women's sports goes, but certainly WNBA. And I think that if she ain't one, she's certainly two, right? So she's up there.
Hey, this one is always interesting. I wish our former co-host would be a part just for this segment. Who was your favorite artist of the year? Musical artist.
Favorite artist of the year.
Mine. My answer might surprise people, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Why would it surprise you? I don't know what I listen to, but for me, I'm gonna say Leon Thomas. That's kind of been the guy I've been rocking with the most. I don't know, man. That the R&B vibe has been my thing, and I think that he's kind of stepped out onto the scene and put out some really good projects and music, and I've enjoyed it. Not bigger than just Muse. There's a lot, bigger than just like some of the big songs he's had. Like he's got some really good songs on his album. So I'll go with him. I'll say him for sure, pretty comfortably.
Hey, I think the thing that's dope with him too, because he's been in the business for a while. He's been writing for a lot of people. People don't know a lot of your favorite songs is written by Leon Thomas. Some of your favorite artists, that's their favorite artist because he's put money in their pockets.
Yep.
Big time. Miles, who's for you?
I said the same thing. That's why I was like, all right, well, I don't have to dive into it too deep. Like Leon Thomas, definitely my favorite artist of the year. Even on my Apple Music end of the year thing, every year it's Drake. It's funny how it like always works out that Drake is the
too many hits.
It's too many hits, top to bottom, hip hop, R&B, whatever you want, reggae. I don't know, but like Leon Thomas definitely the newcomer of the year. Even though he's not new to some, but put out some good projects this year, and hopefully like he gets rewarded for it when the Grammys come calling, which I think he should. Although Olivia Dean is definitely going to give him a run for his money.
That Olivia Dean album?
Oh, she's different. Oh, Olivia Dean is different.
Man I need.
Yeah, she's different. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, that's Olivia Dean. That whole vibe of music.
Yeah,
that is everybody on us. That's my bag. Give me that over rap any day. Give me the R&B. Give me the Olivia Dean type of style. And even if I listen to rap, I do like to have. You got to have a couple of those mellow R&B type songs in there. You ain't got to be singing, but give me a couple of those slow jam type of beats, chill, lo-fi type beats. Yeah, and you spitting on it. Yeah, we cooking now.
I mean, look. If you want to talk about rap, the answer would have been Kendrick Lamar. All right, I think that's what it would have been. I think GNX was awesome, and I love GNX. That's probably my favorite rap album I'd heard this year. So for me, I'd probably say him. But Leon Thomas's music just it hits different. It's soulful. There's some substance to it. Not that there isn't substance to Kendrick Lamar's music, but some of these artists are becoming a bit hollow to me with the way they're experimenting with their sounds and their music and what they're talking about and what they're trying to delve into and all that. I think there's a time and place for rap. I still love it, but it's definitely not the same, at all. The kids, there's all listen to is NBA Youngboy. That's it. And by the way, I think in a certain mood, there's a good time for it. There's a time for it, but for me to sit there in my car and drive around an NBA YoungBoy all the time, yo, I'm gonna crash into somebody.
Hey,
like it's
you're gonna commit a crime.
Yeah, that'll be the crime. I'll drive through a McDonald's. like literally
Hey,
do it.
we got a couple awards to throw out there, but I'll throw a name in the hat for my favorite artist of the year, Jackie Hill Perry, the album Blameless, all the features that she had this year. I think for me, one of our former co-hosts, he ain't mentioned her when he talked about his music. She, I feel, has changed, and she's changed, I feel, Christian rap space. She, if you listen to her music, it gives you that 90s rap vibe. She's lyrical. You got to read the Bible if you listen to Jackie Hill Perry, though, to know what she's talking about. But it's a lot of bars, the beats, the music, the thoughts that go into it, and how she orchestrates her lyrics and puts them together. And she mixes cultural references into her music. Yeah. And every feature that she's been on this year, if it's multiple people on that feature, the rest of y'all got killed. Every single time Jackie Hill Perry's on a song, is most people on the song, Jackie Hill Perry killed it every time. So that was my favorite artist of the year. Favorite album was Blameless. Even on repeat, my son knows a couple of the songs at 2 years old. Like, Jackie Hill Perry was played in our car, our house, quite often throughout 2025. What was your favorite show of the year? And I'm just saying favorite show. It doesn't have to be come out this year, because I know, Greg, you hopped on The Sopranos as of late, and you love you some Sopranos.
It's good. It's a really, really good show. I guess the show I watched the most this year, or the show I liked the most this year. I just want to make sure I just want to make sure I really give it the thought it deserves, because I would probably, I'd say it's somewhere between The Sopranos and
Downton Abbey.
Who? Yeah, okay. Yeah, probably The Sopranos, and then that new Power Force is actually hitting. I'm not gonna lie, It's been really good. I've genuinely enjoyed it. I'd say somewhere between those two. And clearly, there's a theme here: crime-related TV shows, where drug and crime. But no, I would say those are probably my top two right now for sure. Right now, if I had to boil it down, Sopranos got a lot of layers to it. It's impressive.
I'd say my favorite one this year was Severance. Ben Stiller knows what he's doing with that show. It's very suspenseful, and each episode, there's so many layers to it. It's a good plot to it as well. Looking forward to season 3, seeing how they make this story go from here. Like, they could honestly have ended it with that finale, but now if they're going to keep going with it, I want to see how they take this story.
I'll throw out there for mine. If y'all watched the episode where we had the top movies and TV shows of 2025, this was my first pick. Paradise. Sterling Brown actually bodied the role. I'm looking forward to season 2. Julianne Nicholson. For those that don't know the name, that's Sinatra. Real evil person. So Paradise was definitely at the top of my list. And we'll end off with this one. No, we got 2 more. My fault. What's your movie of the year? I'll start. Wake Up, Dead Man. That was my movie of the year. The Knives Out movie. That's my movie.
I'm gonna go with Sinners.
Oh, yeah.
I like supporting, black directors, a black cast, really, minus some of the vampires and all that. But it was really well written, very layered to it, and Ryan Coogler, he knows what he's doing. Everybody loves talking about Jordan Peele, but I mean, hey, he gives him a run for his money when it comes to movies, and he's done some of the biggest movies ever too. Black Panther, now Sinners. Got to put some respect on his name.
Hey, I know in 2026 too, he's supposed to be remaking X-Files, I think they said, as a TV show. But since you mentioned that, I just have to ask, Greg and Miles, if you see a movie is coming out, right, It's a movie dropping Friday in theaters. One is directed by Ryan Coogler. One is directed by Jordan Peele. Which are you going to go see?
Probably Jordan Peele.
Right. I was gonna say Kugler, so I guess here's the. I go see one like Kugler. Peele's great too. Don't get me wrong. You know he's awesome, and there's no wrong answer. But also, don't listen to what I got to say. I don't watch that many movies. No way. I was trying to think about how many movies I'd seen this year, and I saw Sinners in theaters. And Sinners is a movie I'd see twice. I actually enjoyed it. It was really good. It was a good movie. So yeah, I'll go with Sinners. Kugler does his thing as well, and I can't wait for it. Black Panther. The new Black Panther ain't dropped yet. I think that there's another one in the works, right? If I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah.
that's something I'm gonna go see. I always play this game myself. Which movies when I hear about a movie, which one will I actually go out my way to go see? That anytime Kugler dropping something, I'll probably go out my way to go see it.
I'm like you though. Mostly for the most part, I'm more of a TV show guy anyway. But I know me and Miles talked about this. Next year I'm gonna have to start writing down. I've seen a lot of great movies and TV shows, and by the end of the year, I done forgot. Oh, that came out this year? Yeah, so I know next year, starting tomorrow, I'm gonna have to start writing. Oh, I saw this. All right, I saw this. I give it this grade. I'm gonna have to do that. So we're gonna end off with the official BME award. This award goes to somebody that is an athlete that is the most underrated, one of the most underappreciated, or they don't get enough shine, they don't get enough talked about, they don't get enough love. Who comes to mind for you for the BME award? I'll start off. I saw her in person multiple times. I saw her outside of that multiple times. I'm gonna go with something that's a little bit different. It's not one of the considered quote unquote major sports, but my award I would give out to one of the most underrated, most underappreciated, doesn't get enough shine is Taylor Townsend. I'm talking about tennis. She is the number one ranked tennis player in doubles in the world. People sometimes though don't give the same love and respect to doubles. Doubles is just as valuable as singles. Her game and how she approaches tennis. She's a lefty. Y'all know I love lefties. She has force. She's smooth. She's aggressive attacking the net. And on top of it, she got swag. If you watch any of Taylor Townsend at the US Open, she got swag. She carries herself, embracing her culture, embracing her identity, embracing being a mom. Not many people have her story, come back, be the number one in the world as a doubles player. But I think she's just a great tennis player, period. People rank singles higher than doubles. She's great, period. That's just how I view Taylor Townsend. So that's who I want to give some love to for the BME award for 2025.
That's a good one. Miles looking for me to bail him out. That's a good one. I'm trying to think of who my underrated guy is.
I can go. I got it. I would say Brock Purdy. I'm gonna go with Brock Purdy. I think that
He does one doggy.
He won Dougie. I'm not even discussing the Dougie. I'm talking about QB play in general. He's a guy who, hey, 7th round pick, already underrated at that point, and yeah, you could say that he's very highly paid now, but he still doesn't get the love that he deserves because honestly, he's playing at a top 5 level in the NFL right now. If we're looking at QB play, like the way he plays, it's fun to watch. And they've had a lot of injuries this year, but somehow when he's in the lineup, he's able to get it done. And he's the reason why they're a threat to be a Super Bowl contender this year. I'm going to say it. They could make the Super Bowl this year, even with the defense kind of being shoddy. If you have a QB playing this hot right now, which that's the level he's playing at, and you're getting some guys healthy like Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings, like the sky is the limit. And you would think you would hear about him more on these talk shows, but I don't hear anything. Stephen A. probably doesn't even know who he is. I mean, on that show, that's not surprising. Yeah, I'm curious to see how the season ends for him. But if not for the injuries, this is a guy who could have been like an All-Pro. That's a hot take. He could have been an All-Pro this year if he wasn't so banged up with the knee injury this year.
I love that pick. Brock Purdy, like you said, all the injuries for them to be at this point. This is what we talk about when we talk about the quarterbacks, where it's like you try to discredit because he has McCaffrey and Kittle, and it was Debo, and it was Ayuk, and it was all these weapons and a top tier defense. The defense is decimated. Kittle hasn't been Kittle really this year, going through injuries back and forth. The last game that they played, Trent Williams played one snap. McCaffrey has played well, but this is the type of thing. This is the type of thing we're talking about. You don't have all the talent around you, and they still 11-4. That's a lot to Purdy, and that's a lot to the coaching staff over there. This is why we have problems with that man Harbaugh. The 49ers got injuries. They still figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
You need everything going right for you, Harbaugh, for the Ravens to be well. You should be on the hot seat more than Lamar. That's just me. I'll let Greg end off the show, though.
Yeah, I mean, I was putting some real thought into this. I mean, I don't know, man. I think underrated. It feels like Paige Becker's underrated to me. I don't know why I feel that way. I just think she is. I think she's underrated. I think she's really good. Every time I've seen her play, she's always impressed me. I know there's a lot of hype around, Asia Wilson, which is warranted, and Caitlin Clark, which you can debate on whether or not that's warranted or not. But I just feel like she is special, and when you see it, and I think that I got to show some love to the W, man. I probably don't do it enough. So I'll do that here at the end of the year. I'll show it to Paige because she really is special. I mean, the counters, all that, like the ability to shoot it. She just knows how to play the game at a high level. She has a bright future. Her teams are going to be really good moving forward. The Dallas Wings. So really phenomenal basketball player. I'll give her that spot. But there's a lot of ways you could go. A lot of underrated guys. Jalen Johnson's underrated. I mean, for the Hawks, and he probably deserves some consideration as well. He just had 34, 10, and 10 or whatever today it was earlier this afternoon. So I don't know. There's a lot of guys, but I like Paige a lot, and I think that she probably gets a little more love than she gets.
That is a wrap for 2025. It's the same energy, the same vibes going into 2026, though. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Benchmark, we out. The site is up. Get your merch. All 2026. Get your BME merch. There's more merch dropping, sweatpants, hats, all that stuff coming in 2026. The site is there. It's in the description. Get your merch 2026. Peace.
Peace.